when I'm with you. But I love it.
iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max versus the Pixel 10 Pro and Pro XL. And according to my comments section on my Pixel 10 review, a lot of people have decided that this year is the year to switch from iPhone to Android, and specifically the 10 Pro or the Pro XL. But then, 2 weeks later,
iPhone 17
launched. And so, which one is the better phone? Well, there is only really one correct answer here between the best of, what Apple have and what Google have to offer this year.
I can feel my face when I'm with you. But I love it.
I say this in pretty much all of my reviews, including the one I just posted on the S25 Ultra, because this review or comparison or whatever you want to call it is for normal people. Now, yes, I know the Pixel 10 benchmarks way slower than the iPhone, but a lot of people don't care about benchmarks. I also don't care about these pixel by pixel comparisons between phones. I just care about, does this phone work? Does it do what it needs to do? And which one gives you the best bang for your buck? Now, in terms of the hardware, I don't really like the huge plateau design thing of this new iPhone. It's a lot of what feels like wasted space up the top here. Now, it does still wobble ever so slightly on the table, although having a case fixes that wobble. Whereas the Pixel 10 Pro and Pro XL has a pretty, uniform design. It's flat on the desk. It doesn't wobble around when you're typing. And I know it hasn't changed much in terms of the design. They've slightly tweaked the colors this year, but I do prefer the Pixel's just kind of visor approach with the design this year. But the iPhone had me at orange. Honestly, brands could really take note this year. I wonder what the sales figures are for the orange model iPhone 17. I feel like it's a very love it or hate it color. It's either going to fly off the shelf because everyone loves the bright, bold colors that everybody I know has been screaming for brighter colors for so long now. But I also know a lot of people hate the color orange. It's a very Marmite color, I know, but I think this is a step in the right direction. And Pixel haven't shied away from bold colors previously, but for some reason, it's always on the Pros. Pros are always really muted, kind of grays and silvers and pastel colors. There's no bold colors. So yes, very grateful this year. We finally have a bold color on the iPhone, and it is orange, which is my favorite color of all the colors, because now I get to wear everything orange. Now, one thing that does take a while to get used to is that Pixel swaps the power and the volume buttons around on all of their phones. So if you use any other Android phone, what's this? This is a Samsung phone. So power button on the bottom, volume rocker on the top. Pixels always have their power button on the top and the volume buttons underneath. But it does take you a while to get used to that if you are switching from any other Android phone other than a Pixel. But one thing this year I find kind of interesting in terms of customizability, if you call it that, is that the iPhone has more buttons than Samsung's and Pixel's, but I actually find them useful. So you have the action button up here, which you can customize to launching other apps. I actually have mine mapped to running Google's Gemini, because that's actually a useful AI feature. You also have the camera control button, which was notably absent from Apple's announcement this year. However, that is a fantastic way to launch the camera. That's all I use it for, is to launch the camera. And then you've got things like double tap to do the Apple Pay side of things. You've got 2 on-screen shortcuts. You can use those to, do the torch. You've got back tap as well. So there are tons of ways you can actually use the physical and design of the phone to get quick access to the apps or the features that you need. Versus on the Pixel and other Android phones, you only really have the whole kind of double push for the camera. You've got a couple of on-screen buttons, and you do also have the tap or triple tap to enable those features. But I never find, and same on iPhone, I never find the back tap features to work that reliably well, so I just end up turning them off. The worst one is if you use it for the torch, and then your torch just gets stuck on in your pocket, and you've got this little dot shining in your pocket all year round. But one of the biggest changes this year in the iPhone is the change from titanium on the iPhone 16 series to aluminium on the iPhone 17 series, because they say the new A19 Pro chips need much better thermal management to keep the phones cool. And so now my feed is just full of people showing how scratched and scuffed the iPhone can get, because that's a thing now apparently. So one thing you might want to do this year, regardless of which phone you pick, is to pick up a case from the sponsor of this video, Magback. Now yes, it does what every other case should do, protects it from minor drops and minor scratches. But the reason I love these specific cases so much is because of these extra features. Now we have the built-in finger loop that can be tucked away when not in use. There is also a magnetic kickstand on the bottom, which is great for either portrait or landscape. There is also a pinky pillow, which also doubles up as extra protection from either water or just fluff getting into your charging ports. And all of these can be customized, by the way, with different color packs. I've got green on right now, including the rubber grips on the side of the case as well. Now again, I've gone for the whole black and orange combo with a bit of green, like a bit of Master Chief thrown in for this year. And there is even an included screen protector that comes in the pack, which is super easy to apply. And then there is this Case's party trick, which is these additional telescoping magnets on the back here that let you stick your phone to anything magnetic, anything metal, like gym equipment whilst working out, or maybe your kitchen, maybe you're watching a video or talking to a friend and you just want to stick your phone to the wall, or maybe just the MagBack wallet. And yeah, you can do that because this case has the strongest magnets that I've ever seen in any case before. So now, anywhere Baghdassit becomes a safe place to stick your phone. And those magnets also don't interfere with wireless charging either. Now, honestly, friends of mine know how much I genuinely love these cases. Whichever phone I'm carrying at the time, if MagBack makes a case for it, I want it, I buy it. And you can get 15% off using the link down below in the description. And again, huge thank you for MagBack for sponsoring this video. Let's talk about the display now, because the iPhone comes with an anti-glare display this year, whereas the Pixel does not. However, doesn't really look any different to me. I mean, if it does, it maybe is like 5% marginally better, but honestly, I've compared this with like the S25 Ultra that has an anti-glare display, like an anti-reflective display, and it is noticeable the difference between the Samsung S25 Ultra and the iPhone 17. They've done something, but it is not really much to make any difference when you're outside. So that is a bit of a kind of fail as far as I'm concerned on the iPhone side of things. Again, the Pixel doesn't have one, but for either of these phones, you can actually pick up a matte screen protector from Amazon. It's super cheap. It's like $10 or £10 for a pack of 3, I think it is. And by doing that, makes it so much more usable outside or with bright lights around you, like I've got here with all the, the various lights pointing at me. It just turns the phone into something that is buttery smooth in your hand. It feels very much the same as the back glass you get on the Pixels, but you get that on the front of your phone with the glass. Super nice to use. These phones are also, I would say, more comfortable in the hand than something like the S25 Ultra, which has very square edges. And the thing I love about, again, both the Pixel and the iPhone this year is, not this year really, but it's every year, but the Pros have 2 sizes to them. So you get the Pro and Pro Max on the iPhone, and you get the Pro and the Pro XL with the Pixel. And you can choose to have the smaller phone, but keep all of the flagship features, apart from slightly smaller battery. And that's the only real sacrifice. And then we get onto performance. And look, I'm not gonna get hung up on this because benchmarks, yes, benchmarks are horrendously different between these phones. The iPhone is vastly superior, according to benchmarks, than the Pixel 10 Pro and the Pro XL. But both phones work amazingly well in just general day-to-day use. What I will say though is if you game, well, the Pixel can really struggle over time, especially if you're playing longer gaming sessions, once the phone has warmed up and it starts to really throttle itself to kind of keep the whole thermal management thing going, then the Pixel does take a hit, and just the gaming performance goes through the floor, and the kind of FPS you can get is horrendous compared to iPhone, its new vapor chambering cooler technology, the A19 Pro chip that's in it. So for gaming, if you want to specifically call out gaming, the iPhone is better. Sorry, it is better. Now, still talking about performance, I have had the Pixel stutter quite a lot when I'm taking photos and videos. It's almost like there's too much going on with the chipset, and it's having issues with showing what's on screen, so it, the interface lags. But that's kind of by the by, and they have been improving with the software updates as they've been coming out over the last few weeks and months or so. But the biggest, I guess, difference between these two is, of course, the whole, iOS versus PixelOS. And I have made whole videos about converting from one to the other and the pros and cons, but I'll just summarize a few here that kind of frustrate me at times. On the iPhone, there is no universal back gesture, which drives me nuts at times. You can swipe in from the left, sometimes it goes back, sometimes it just scrolls to the left, sometimes it opens a menu. It's just no kind of universal thing that works the same way on the iPhone. You have to go and find, do you have to minimize the photo and then close the photo and then go back? Whereas on the Pixel, you swipe in either from the left or the right, and it's going to go back to the previous step or the previous screen that you were on before. There's no faffing around, whereas the iPhone, there is just a lot more faffing. Quirks on the iPhone, however, one example I can pick out is if you're in landscape mode and then you pull down the control center, and then if you try and move it to portrait, it gets stuck in landscape mode. So you then have to make sure you then kind of swipe up from landscape mode and then put it back to portrait mode. Whereas it doesn't do that. On anything on Android, it's designed to know that you go into the control center or, pull down, turn the phone over, and it moves with the phone. So I don't really know why iPhone hasn't figured that out yet. It's really odd, but it is one of those things people like to pick apart with the whole iPhone versus Android software. Now, one thing I don't also like on choosing between the Pro and the Pro Max, if you go for the bigger phone, is that you can't really customize the software that much. And in terms of like the icons, so you don't get any extra space with the Pro Max. You can't fit like an extra 5th icon in the dock down the bottom. You're just stuck with what you have. Whereas on Android, anything and everything is customizable. So you can kind of do things with your phone. You can put different launchers on there, fit as many icons as you want with extra custom features. But that is something worth being aware of. And I just know that lots of people love Pixel OS. Lots of people love iOS. Like this whole iPhone versus Android thing in general is just very much a personal preference. I've had bugs on both phones. There's no like one OS is better than the other. Yes, there are restrictions, but there are also issues with Android. So both platforms, both ecosystems have their own issues. I have had lots of bugs very early on in the Pixel OS software here, from anything from photos that I've taken and then I can't find in the camera roll, to stuttery performance again in videos when taking photos. I've also had some videos I've taken cut the last few seconds off a few times now, which is really frustrating. So I'm having to leave extra room at the end of my videos to make sure that doesn't happen, which you shouldn't have to do. Now, what I do like is both phones have Face Unlock, and Face Unlock that actually works for, you know, extra security apps like banking apps. And you don't find that with many other phones. You get Face Unlock, which will unlock the phone, but if you go and try and, you know, use Apple Pay or Tap to Pay or banking apps or investment apps, then you have to then use your fingerprint or, you know, swipe to the gestures to log in. You don't have to do that. Pixel works fine, iPhone works fine on both of those. And then we get to AI features. AI features. Okay. iPhone does not have many AI features. Yeah, it just doesn't. It hasn't improved much in the last year plus since they've announced it. They've got some minor things like, oh God, what, like memojis, things like that. We did a comparison a few weeks back with Gemini, or, you know, Google Gemini's voice assistant versus Siri, which is basically ChatGPT, because Siri just relies on ChatGPT for everything. And just Google ecosystem, the Google Assistant, Google Gemini just smashes the floor with the iPhone every single time. It's not even a fair competition at this point. The Pixel has incredible features like Ask Photos, only if you're in the US. And this happens a lot with Pixel phones, I find, is that they have some incredible features, especially when they're like newly announced features, but they don't really disclose where they're available. And so I, for the first few weeks or so, was like convinced I should have had this feature. I was looking it up online until I found myself finally on the right page on Google's website. Ask Photos is US only. And so you can't sit here and say like, make the thing blue and remove the background. You have to do that all kind of manually with the photo editing tools. It looks like a great feature. I can't test it. I'm sure for the Americans out there, it's a fantastic feature, but I can't do it here. Gemini Live, where you can actually just go and like share your camera and, you know, walk around your house or your flat. It can actually remember where you placed things. So if you asked it a question of like, where's the thing? It will tell you that the thing you left was over here because it saw it a moment ago. Quick question. Do you know where I left my Google Pixel Bud Pro 2s?
Yes, I do. Your Google Pixel Buds Pro 2 box is sitting right there on the coffee table next to the Lego Fortnite llama. Can you see it?
Yes. And I just love that you can just have a conversation, share your camera, ask it questions about what you're physically seeing. That is such an underrated feature that I use all the time, and every time I do that, it blows people's minds. I'm wondering if I can use the swimming pool water to water the grass, but I'm not sure if the chemicals and the chlorine would damage the grass. What do you think?
You could, but you might want to wait a few days after you've added chemicals to the pool so the chlorine has a chance to dissipate.
However, you can get that feature on an iPhone. Again, I've just mapped the action button at the top here. So I push and hold the action button, tap on continue, and I run into a Gemini Live session, share the camera, and now I can do the same. The only problem I have with Gemini and lots of like the Google features is that they are locked to a specific account. So for Gemini, for example, if I want to ask it anything about, you know, what's in my calendar or messages or appointments or emails, I love Gemini when I can just say like, oh, hey, can you go and find this email from this person? It had an attachment sent sometime last week. Can you go find it? And it works really well. However, it only works for the account that you're signed into. I have a personal account, a work account. I actually have a second personal account on there as well. And so I have to swap accounts to get it to do that, at which point it's just quicker to go into the email app and search manually. And the same is said for Magic Queue. So Magic Queue is the new Google features. Doesn't really work as it was advertised still for me at the moment. So Magic Queue is meant to, when you're, you know, having a conversation with someone over text and they ask you like, oh, what time was your flight this afternoon? It will look at your calendar, find that flight information and make it like one tap away so you can tap it and send it back to them. In my experience, it either just gives you a shortcut to open the calendar or it just generates lots of AI replies which aren't actually pulling from your information. And then going back to what I just said, it is pulling it from the account that you're signed into. So if that flight or if that calendar appointment was sat on a different calendar, it can't see it, doesn't know it exists, and therefore can't pull information from it. So I really do hope that that's a thing. I feel like that is very much how Google has committed to their AI system. It's very much account specific rather than device bound. Whereas I think and I hope that Apple's approach, where it all being on device, even though it's obviously a lot worse, is that it will be able to access across multiple accounts. So if you have all of those accounts in your Apple Calendar on your phone, then it should look at your calendar on your phone and pull that data out. It doesn't do anything like that right now. It's horrendous. But I'm just saying that hopefully that's the approach Apple takes, because whilst Google Gemini is vastly ahead by a mile right now, that is one of the hang-ups I'm having, and I hope Apple actually fixes those hang-ups. Having said that, Gemini brings out updates like daily, weekly, like there was updates on the, was it Banana, Nano Banana? Then there's also the Sora 2 or 3 that's just come out. They are releasing updates at an incredible pace, whereas Apple Intelligence still kind of crickets. Nothing's really going on in there, is there? And then we have one of the most important reasons why people choose either of these phones, which are the cameras. Now, I don't know about you, but nobody that I know is actually taking photos of like the 100 times zoom on the Pixel, or even 40 times zoom on the iPhone. It is one of those totally unrealistic things that other tech creators constantly like pick holes in over which can take the best 100 times super zoomed in photo, when like none of them are usable. None of them are something you'd save into your family album to remember in like 20 years time. It's just, especially with the Pixel, so they have 100 times photos which are then AI generated. It like analyzes the frame and then replaces things with AI on what it thinks it's looking at. So I don't know, maybe I'm just old and I'm missing the whole point here, but what I will say is that both of these cameras are great. Like if you have a Pixel, then you've got one of the best cameras in a phone. If you have the iPhone 17 Pro or Pro Max, you have one of the best cameras in a phone. And just for capturing day-to-day memories with my kids, my wife, like magical moments, stuff that I'm going to go look back on 15, 20, 30 years time, and I'm going to relive those moments once more. Like not once am I going to complain that
the image isn't sharp enough. It's missed the background. It's missed the ear, and it's blurred. And
like, oh, come on.
Maybe you should have bought a Samsung.
Like, you're not going to do that at all. But having said that, there are some differences and things that I've actually personally noticed that I do care about over time. Now, I do feel like Pixel kind of losing their edge with their cameras. Like, whenever I see a blind camera comparisons, it always seems to be older Pixels that then come out on top, and just the general performance of using the Pixel camera, like smoothly zooming in and zooming out, and can just be a little bit hit and miss sometimes. Now, I've also noticed that nighttime shots can be actually really bad sometimes on the Pixel, like loads of background noise, but there is actually a fix to that problem, because the Pixel 10's camera can shoot this like 12-bit dual ISO RAW photo, which basically means you can shoot much higher quality low light photos with none of the noise, and that's without using any of these like AI boost features. Except to do that, you have to download, I think pay for, a third-party camera app called Motion Cam Pro, which, I mean, I just don't get why that isn't baked into the stock camera app on the Pixel, because it fixes all of those issues. And then when it comes to video, I just personally don't think there's any competition here. Like, I've been using these phones side by side since they both came out, and I just don't think there is any way in a million worlds where the iPhone doesn't win out, hands down. Like, yes, you might be able to pick out specific situations where Pixel looks the same or maybe even better, but the iPhone just wins overall for consistency, like being good in pretty much every situation, and again, without really heavy AI processing, which, by the way, Google's video boost feature can take hours and hours and hours, sometimes like over half a day. I've gone to sleep and woken up the next day and it's been, oh, your video's ready, that I've took yesterday. And so I will just say that, again, great camera without complaints, but then I've complained for like the last half an hour. It's a great camera if you choose to go with the Pixel. Just video, video performance, I just find the iPhone stronger overall. And for this year, the iPhone's front-facing camera definitely just wins out overall. It's got this new square sensor that lets you shoot both portrait and landscape photos for both photo and video without moving the phone around. You can just hold it like that and change it around, which also has Apple Intelligence, which framing, so it knows like to shoot wider when multiple people enter the frame and go landscape if it needs to. It's just a really nice upgrade, and one that I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing in every other phone as of like next year. Now in terms of battery and charging, another important one. So the Pixel 10 Pro, 30 watt wired or 45 watt for the XL, 15 watt wireless or 25 watt for the XL. Whereas the iPhone has up to 40 watts wired and 25 watts wired on both models. Bit by the by, no one really performs better, and I would say like the iPhone is marginally better battery life wise. And actually I will link to a video by Lover of Tech. Ben's a really great guy that does these insane battery drain tests where the Pixel 10 Pro XL lasted, I think it was 20 minutes less than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So it's going to depend on your use case, but basically they're about the same. Now both of them also have MagSafe, or Pixel Snap, we're calling it on the Pixel side of things. Really useful. It's nice to have that feature with the Qi 2.2 kind of charging standard now. And again, something that I'm hopeful, very hopeful that will come to all other phones in the next coming year or so. So really what sets them apart? Well, on the Pixel side of things, of course, it is Android. You have the Pixel ecosystem, which is, you know, the watch, tablets, the buds, and the Pixel OS, which is a big selling feature for a lot of people. You can also sideload apps and games, you know, Epic Games in particular. I can play Fortnite on my Pixel. I can't play Fortnite on my iPhone because the UK and was it EU regulation or something. Basically, I'm not allowed to play it on the iPhone, but like I can play it on an Android phone. So it does have a lot of benefits being on Pixel and on Android OS. And again, just some people prefer the Pixel OS and Android over the iPhone side of things. Whereas on the iPhone side of things, you have the ecosystem, which is the biggest sales like pitch and feature of them all. AirDrop to be able to quickly transfer files from your phone to your computer. You've got, actually I do really quite like the lock screen where I can just use family photos and choose from my gallery of just my wife, just my kids, and add a really nice like 3D depth effect, which just looks stunning when you show people in like real person, and it just gives this added 3D effect to your backgrounds. You've also got dynamic islands on the iPhone, which I feel is really useful. I've just come back from traveling. I'm about to go traveling next week, and just having apps like Flighty, which show your flight information in the dynamic island. So as you're, you know, heading to your gate, you can just kind of look down at your phone and go, okay, cool, that's the gate number, or that's my seat, without having to pull out your boarding pass and figure out where your paper's gone and passport and all that kind of stuff. However, with that said, the Pixel's pinhole camera is much better for consuming content rather than this massive like block and chunk that's taken out of your screen. You've also got the Apple Watch, you know, a big sales feature of the Apple ecosystem. Loads of people get hung up on the Apple Watch and won't switch across to anything else. I will say, actually, from the Pixel side of things, my Pixel Watch is about to arrive because it's, what day is it? We're on 2nd of October right now. So the Pixel Watch is about to be delivered. The Pixel Watch is my favorite of all the Android smartwatches because it's fast, it's fluid, it works well, it's not buggy from what I used with the previous generation Pixel Watch. It's really, really great. But I have now pretty much switched to a Garmin Fenix 8 instead now because I just find that watch so much nicer to use. It has like 2-week long battery life versus an iPhone or an Apple Watch's 1-day battery life is shockingly bad on the iPhone side of things. And then you also have apps still being developed first for the iPhone. Flighty, like I mentioned, great for when traveling, only available on iPhone. Fantastical, again, a calendar app, only available on iPhone. So I am slowly pulling myself apart to use these kind of cross-platform applications. So now I tend to use Motion for my calendar because that's cross-platform compatible. Flighty I still have on my iPhone. And so what I end up doing is just finding alternative apps that are cross-platform compatible so I can use it from my iPhone, from my Android, from my Mac, from a Windows machine, whichever device I'm using. And then we have the question of upgradability, let's call it, because Pixel devices and just Android devices in general, they tend to get discounted fairly quickly. You know, they'll throw in freebies, you'll get some free earbuds or a free case, and when you do buy them, you get discounts on the other accessories and other products, which just inherently then devalues the products themselves. And so with Pixels in particular, I normally find under every time I review a brand new Pixel, the comments are just like, oh, you just wait a week and it'll be discounted and you can just go and buy it at a discount. They also typically offer better trade-in deals. So if you want to trade in your iPhone or your Samsung or your older Pixel, you get better, stronger trade-in deals. Whereas on the Apple side of things, Apple never discount. They don't discount their accessories. You pay the price, and therefore Apple's products tend to hold their value much better. So if you are trading in year upon year and upgrading, your iPhone will typically hold more value than a Pixel or than a Samsung or than any Android phone really. So after rambling at you for the last what feels like 30 minutes, the answer to the question that I set up at the beginning of this video, which phone is the obvious choice here, the iPhone or the Pixel? And the answer is, once again, buy the phone that you want, the phone that you wants. If you are currently using an iPhone and you're bored of it, buy a Pixel. If you're currently using a Pixel and you're wondering if the iPhone is any good, buy an iPhone. And just quit focusing on what phone everybody else is using. I see you in the comments. Apple users hating on Android users and Android users hating on Apple users. Get the phone that you enjoy using. Stop bitching and moaning about what everyone else is using. Like, buy the one that you can afford, the one that you think will capture your family moments, the one that you think will make it easier to share with your partners and make friends, and the one that makes it effortless to pay, to work out, to listen to music, with AI features, if you care for them, that actually work. Now, I've captured some of my best and most treasured moments on much older, crappier phones like Apple, Samsung, Pixel, OnePlus, spending time with my kids and seeing them grow up and turn into the incredible people that they're becoming. It's just a wonderful thing. One that I'm forever going to be grateful for carrying something, this powerful in our pockets. What a time to be alive.